Hi, everybody. Hi, wave at me. We can see you. You can see us. This is amazing. If I'm looking up, I'm just looking at all your beautiful faces. Hi, welcome to Launch Day. I'm Kate Simmons, and I get to be your host and MC for the next hour with Joey. I also have kind of a new job here at IMS and Joey Klein. I seem to have been appointed the unofficial CFO, that is Chief Fun Officer. Anybody? I am the fun officer. It is my job to make sure that everybody's having a good time. And there is a little way that we have a good time on our virtual programs. I'd like to just practice it for a second. Does anyone know how I know you're having a good time? Do you know? Yes, you do. You give me the jazz hands. If you are new to this crowd, please know it's as silly as it feels and as silly as it looks, but it is very effective in letting me know that we're all having a great time. All right, everybody, we are here to celebrate. Welcome, welcome. We're here to celebrate the launch of Joey Klein's new book, Relationship Alchemy, a practical guide to getting along well with others. Welcome to this special day. I'm so happy you're all here. So we've got people here that we can see. You can see you on Zoom. We also are live on Facebook. So we've got people on Facebook. So hello to all of you as well. We've got a very special hour planned for you. I would love to know where people are tuning in from. So if you just take a second and type it in the chat and let us know where you're coming in from. I already know that I see people from Nashville. And we've got Austin, Texas. I know Los Angeles is in the house. Did I see London, Denver? Oh my gosh, it's awesome. You guys, welcome from everywhere to this special event. Now, before I introduce Joey and tell you what we're going to be, what we have in store for you, I would love to first give you an opportunity, if you haven't already done so. Today's launch day, it's officially available, and you can buy the book. So Wendy's going to put up a little slide for you, and you can see a QR code there. If you point your camera at that QR code and just kind of zoom in a little bit, a link will pop up, and you will be able to get not only the book, but all of the very special bonuses that we have available to you for launch day. So we've got a bunch of things available. You can see we've got a virtual training with Joey Klein. You get immediate access, a downloadable PDF of the intro and chapter one, so you don't even have to wait for Amazon's 2-day shipping or Barnes and Noble or wherever you're finding the book. You get the Relationship Toolkit, which is an awesome collection of worksheets that will help you make some of the concepts in the book actionable. You get the Relationship Blind Spot training if you're a brand new client to us. It just kind of gives you a taste of our training and what's possible. And then finally, 40% off the Relationship Alchemy course. It's an online course, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But this is the lineup of bonuses that's available to you today on launch day. It's a great package of bonuses. Now, if you were with us over the weekend at Relationship Alchemy Intensive, you have everything there is. You were gifted the course, you got a book, you're already, many of you are already members, so you have access to many of these items. If you are non-members, there are some great things included in this bonus package for you. And so, folks, we've got it all, and I'm very, very excited to be with you. We're going to make a plan to make a plan. And that's how Caitlin always puts it, and I sort of like that. I'm going to tell you what we're going to be up to. We're going to introduce Joey here in a moment. We're going to have a fireside chat with him. I'm very clear that there is no fireplace behind us, but we call it a fireside chat. That's how we do it. Then we're going to do a segment called Ask Joey Anything. We have been gathering questions from social media, from email, from voicemail. People have been asking relationship questions, so we have a few of those to go over. Then we're going to have an opportunity to hear from you guys, an open Q&A. You can bring us your relationship questions, and for those of you who are at Relationship Alchemy, you can feel free to share some things with us from the weekend. So there will be an opportunity, so get your questions ready. And then finally, we're going to go over next steps, how to really leverage this curriculum to up-level relationships across every space in your life. All right? Now is one of my favorite things, guys. I get to introduce my dear friend and my mentor, Joey Klein. As you guys know, Joey is the founder and CEO of Intermatrix Systems. And as such, he developed the Intermatrix method. That is the method that we use to train folks. It is the best of the East, as I like to say. That's meditation, mindfulness, things like this, combined with the best of the West, psychology, neurobiology, neuroplasticity. And he combined those things into the training system that he has been using and we have been using for 22 years and counting, and has served over 84,000 people so far. And not only does this training allow people to create the big outcomes in life, like the amazing business, the beautiful family, the vibrant body, but it also allows us and ensures that when we create those things, we actually feel the fulfillment, the love, the connection, the freedom that we were after in the first place. That's one of my favorite things about our training. Joey is the author not only of the Intermatrix book, which is the reason many of us found our way to him in the first place, but he is the author of today's new release, Relationship Alchemy, a practical guide to getting along well with others. I love this book, you guys. Just working as part of the team on the development of this project, it up-leveled how I show up in my marriage and in a number of different relationships, so I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it. He is also widely known as a fixer of unfixable problems, many of those problems in the space called relationship. He is a 3-time world champion martial artist, which is not just a cool detail. I particularly find that cool. But it is a demonstration of the efficacy of the method that he developed. Because in order to create an outcome like 3 consecutive world championships, you've got to be able to line up your inner game to get yourself to do whatever it takes to make that happen. So for me, it always tells me that he not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. And finally, we have a nickname for Joey. We call him the Dragon. I mean, it's right there on the logo. Can you see that little logo? Joey is the Dragon. You kind of have to be at one of our programs that he facilitates to see the full dragon, right? The dragon in full effect. But I'm going to summarize it by sharing that he is fierce and he's committed to seeing each individual get where they want to go. He's done that for me. He's done that for me in every area of my life, but in particular, inside of relationships. He has genuinely supported me to completely reinvent my marriage, to show up with my family in moments of challenge in ways that I can feel really proud of, and my biggest why, my kids. He's helped me to show up as an example of what's possible to my kids. And that to me is the most meaningful piece. So please join me with an enormous, fun, virtual Facebook Live welcome for my favorite dragon, Joey Klein. Oh my gosh, all the jazz hands. We have all the jazz hands. You guys are the best. Thank you and welcome, Joey. Welcome, welcome. I would love to, this is our fireside chat. It's nice and toasty here by the fire. We're having a good time already. So I would love to have you share the story behind this book. The book has been a long time in the making, and I love the story. We shared it the other day at Relationship Alchemy over the weekend, but I'd love for the people who weren't there with us to have an opportunity to hear about it.
For sure. I see so many faces who were here the last weekend. Raise your hand if you're at Relationship Alchemy. Here's your chance to get all the questions in that you thought about after you left, because I bet you have some. How many of you have some questions that you're like, oh, and then they started occurring when you left? Raise your hand. There you go. You'll have a chance here in a second, right? It's so interesting in this day and age, how most books come to be. And, Relationship Alchemy is truly unique in how most books are created today, because a lot of books today aren't even written by humans. Are you guys aware of this? Like, a lot of people are just putting in like information and AI is shooting out their book. And a lot of these authors aren't even reading the book that AI shoots out. It's literally just a marketing tool. And then there's a lot of books that are created today where it's like, people are writing the book to just try to draw attention and get interest. And then after they sell the book, they try to figure out what to do on the back end in terms of selling a product and or a service. Relationship alchemy is literally, created in the opposite fashion. Many of you guys know I've been teaching and doing trainings now for a little over 22, 23 years. And, one of the main themes from day one has been, the transformation or the evolution of relationships. And so many people come to me and they're like, Joey, you're our last resort, right? Our marriage is on the brink of divorce, no pressure, but we've been to three different therapists, and if this doesn't work, like, we're divorcing. Our family's gonna be estranged and all that kind of stuff, right? Broken family and all that. And then I have business partners who have come to me and say, listen, we're in the middle of it. We're suing each other. We're going to sue each other. We're going to go at it. They're arguing, right? Like high stakes, and all the money's about to go to lawyers. And we've unwound that process again and again and again for people. I've had individuals come and parents are like, man, I'm having these troubles with my small children, my teenage kids, my adolescent children. What do I do with that? And then, estranged children, like, hey, I haven't talked to my child for 2, 3 years. We've not even spoken. I really want a relationship with my child. How do I go about making that happen? Like, if you can name the relationship challenge, I've interacted with it deep in the trenches with people, and anything that we teach, coach, or train, or anything in relationship alchemy, the book, is it's tried and true. We've walked hundreds. I've personally walked hundreds and hundreds of people through, tools, techniques, and processes that produced a result again and again and again and again. And if it hasn't, then we don't teach it, we don't train it. And so that's essentially, what's in the book. Many of you guys know I don't like writing books. Like, I'm not somebody who gets excited about, like, yeah, I gotta write a book, and like love like the idea of cabining and like pounding content out. I hate the idea of writing a book, right? I'm like actually pretty dyslexic. And so like that even creates a compounding effect there. And so everything that I've created from day one is because you guys have asked me to. And over the years, I've had, request after request. Joey, will you please create a curriculum around relationships? Will you please write a relationship book? I'd love to give it to my friend or this person or that person. It would make such a difference. And actually, finally, why I kind of pulled the trigger is because we understood, like, yes, we want to create what we think of as the lifestyle series, which will eventually be relationship, money, as well as health. But there's a psychologist who really bugged me more than others and was like, you need to write this book. You need to write a relationship book. You have all these things that you do around relationships, and I've never seen anything like it. You blow my mind. Like, you do with people in literally 2 days what therapy doesn't do in a decade, right? And this is coming from a therapist, from a psychologist, right? Those aren't my words. Those are often what I hear from professionals. And they're like, people need access to the work. And so eventually, I'm like anybody else. You break me down, I'm like, fine, I'm going to do it. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. And so, right, we took archives and of me teaching, of me walking people through the steps and the processes that we teach in different programs over the last 20 years. And we basically created transcriptions. And we have thousands of pages of transcriptions of the work that we've done real time around relationships with people. And then from there, we hired a, kind of, they're called a book doctor, to basically take the outline we created and make it readable, right? Take it from transcript form into readable form. And then I met with this person weekly and basically like looked at the content word for word to make sure it was all mine. And we made changes upon changes, because if I'm gonna put something out, it's gonna have my name on it. It's gonna be as though I put my stamp of approval on it, and it's anything I would say, at a program or coaching somebody or teaching them one-on-one, and then from there was like 3 editing processes. We had to take a lot of the content out because the book was going to be ginormous. And so we literally took, half the content out. Like, Kate had to go through everything with hours and hours of work and like actually take out a lot of information. And then I reviewed it again to produce the book that we have. And so, that was several years in the making. And from there, we also created, a curriculum, which the book kind of coincides with, an online course and curriculum where they reinforce each other. And so it's not just information, it's filled with tools, techniques, and strategies on how to manage your relationships better, how to create extraordinary relationships. And it can also be a training tool. So it's not just information based. It really can be leveraged as a training tool if you use it that way.
Yeah, and you couldn't have said it better, or I couldn't have said it better myself. There's a lot packed. It's now a 200-page book. It would have been like a 700-page book. So there are more books coming, let me tell you that. In these 200 pages, there are so many big takeaways. So if you had to name the top 3 to 5 big takeaways that you hope for people to read the book and then just take those things, put it in their pocket and own that for themselves, what would those be? 3 to 5.
I'd say the first big thing, and all of you could probably relate to this, is what we need to stop doing in relationships. And so if you go to, if we go to our just the traditional process of how we're gonna elevate or make something better, or if you were to go to a traditional like one of the traditional therapies out there, whether it's a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, etc., you're gonna do two key things. You're gonna focus on what's wrong and try to analyze what's not working. And then you're going to go, well, why is this not working? And that's going to typically take you to focusing on some kind of past event or past circumstances that are the reason why it's not working today. And then basically you do that for, months or maybe 10 years, and then you still don't have the outcome and the result that one is looking for, right? And you kind of constantly struggle with this process because we're focusing on current circumstances, the problem, and kind of where it came from. And so I had a mentor in my life who said, Joey, the solution, like understanding or knowing what a problem is doesn't lead to the solution of the problem. Knowing what a problem is does not lead to the solution of the problem. And the second thing they would always say is transformation is not a mental event. Transformation is an emotional event. And so the more I understood that, the more I realized, like, oh, if you focus on the challenge that you're having, you feel sad, you feel more discouraged, you feel angry, and then you feel more anger, more sadness, more discouragement. And the more you focus on the problem, the worse you feel, and the bigger the problem gets, right? As opposed to focusing on the problem, and then that leads to us solving it. And then the same thing, if we go into the past and we focus on all the bad things that have happened in the relationship and all the terrible things the other person did and all the things I feel bad about, guilt and shame about what I did, you're just going to feel worse. And again, it conditions the very emotions and the experiences we're trying to get beyond. And so number one is like, man, we've got to resist the temptation to do what most do, which is focus on the problem at hand and where it came from. Number two, we've got to go, okay, well, let me name a vision. Let me get really clear about what I actually want in the relationship and make that my new bullseye. We got to go out into the future and really see the future relationship I want to evolve to, I want to create, I want to have for myself. And then the third piece is the mechanics of making that happen. And the mechanics are twofold. Number one, we've got to be willing to be inside of 100% ownership of the relationship, which means I'm not going to blame or defer the other person in any way. Now, that doesn't mean they're not up to some, destructive behavior or some things that aren't great, like they probably are. But what we must come to understand is that if they're executing in a way that we dislike or that isn't helpful, that in some way we're contributing to it, we're holding space for it. And if we make ourselves 100% for the vision of relationship we want to have, inherently that's going to give us the motivation, the ability to do the work, to see how we can align ourselves and show up differently such that we can have that relationship. And we want to get good at a couple of skills. Number one is understanding the 3 aspects of relationship. There's me in the relationship, or you, and then there's the relationship itself, and then there's the other person. And inside these 3 aspects of relationship, ourself, the relationship itself, and the other person, there are different rules to how to navigate each of those components such that you can produce the optimal results that you want in a relationship. And so if we understand the rules of the game around how we manage ourselves in a relationship, you've got an edge there, right? You will be able to do what 99% of people can't do in relationship, which is stop making yourself responsible for the things that you're not actually responsible for in the relationship. Number 2 is, how do we nurture the relationship itself? What are the rules of the relationship? The energy we put into the relationship mixed with the energy that the other person puts into the relationship. How do we manage that energy through the emotions we feel, the thoughts we think, the actions that we ultimately take toward that relationship, right? There's always those 4 things that we put in the relationship, the words that we speak, and managing that really well so it nurtures the relationship itself. And same thing, what am I responsible for in the relationship? What am I not responsible for as it pertains to the relationship? And then finally, what am I responsible for as it pertains to the other person? What am I not responsible for as it pertains to the other person? If we understand that framework, that leads us to be able to identify really healthy expectations in the relationship, and then how to reinforce those expectations with boundaries that are going to ensure that the relationship thrives. So I know that's a big framework that I just laid out, but essentially that's the key, the key or the infrastructure to creating extraordinary relationships.
That was amazing. And it honestly, when you get your hands on the book, and those of you who were at this past weekend and who have been like looking at it, reading it, he really just laid out all of the like the big landmarks inside of the book. The vision piece, the three aspects of relationship is just revolutionary. The fact that the 100% ownership, not 50-50, there is no 50-50. All these pieces are like it is so clear and so profound. I can't wait for you to be able to read it. And when you do, please let us know what you think. Please share with us. You can write in, you can leave a review. Please definitely let us know what you think. So thank you for that. I think we're gonna do a little Ask Joey Anything moment. Now, over the past several months, we have gotten so many spectacular questions, many of them from social media, several of them from email, and even a few voicemails. People just called the office and said, "Here's my question. Can you please?" So I'm going to do my best to cover as many as we can while still leaving ample time to hear from you. And a couple of these we did hear at the weekend, but I thought they were so poignant that I really wanted to have everybody, the broader audience, have an opportunity to hear a couple of these answers. This one's a new one. This one was submitted by Sakina814 from the internet. And she asks, what are some strategies for not directing my negative emotions at my spouse?
So the first thing I always, train people inside of is when you relate to emotion, to stop referencing it as negative and positive, because it creates the connotation that if I feel a fear-based state such as sadness or disappointment, that that's bad, and if I feel something like joy or inspiration, that's good. And so I would change the nomenclature. Number one is whenever you're feeling what we would normally call a fear-based state, or negative state, let's call it a fear-based state, just for accuracy's sake. And also you'll notice it'll change the relationship to it.
Mhm.
And then next is same thing. Like when we start looking at positive emotions, let's not reference them as positive. Let's start referencing them as love based. And there's a neurological reason for that. Your brain functions differently inside of love based states as it does fear based states. And so that's step one. And then that'll give us the ability to create a different relationship to the emotions. Next, step two is identify the emotion that we're feeling, right? If you're feeling sad, take ownership of the sadness. And the big way that we don't defer fear-based states onto other people and end up acting out in ways that are going to be destructive to the relationship and diminishing of the relationship and have us do things we don't regret is ownership of the emotion. And so if we're feeling angry or anxious or overwhelmed or shame or guilt or whatever those emotions might be, it's like, hey, in this moment I'm feeling X, like we do in our power of emotion work, and it's okay that I feel that way.
Mhm.
It's my emotion, it's my feeling. I'm not feeling this way because of anything the other person did, even if the other person behaved in a way that is, again, dysfunctional or maybe even abusive or unsatisfactory. The emotion is still ours and our responsibility because we feel it inside us. It's our nervous system. And so the ownership piece is what's ultimately going to give you the ability to not, direct that emotion at the other person, blame the other person for the way in which we're feeling. And then the third piece is learn to manage the emotion, learn management skills around emotion. There are three core skills and competencies we need to develop when it comes to emotions. Number one is the awareness and sensitivity to the emotions that we're feeling. Like that's a competency. If we don't know it's there, we can't do anything about it. It's going to be like a silent ghost in the machine. It's going to dictate what we do. And then the second piece is, learning to sometimes feel a fear-based state, be uncomfortable, but not act out from the emotion, right? It's like, okay, I feel this way and I want to say something negative or I want to do something impulsively, but learning to feel uncomfortable and yet not behave in a destructive manner because that's a skill. Sometimes we're just not going to be able to shift the way we feel, but that doesn't mean that our behavior has to represent the emotion. Third is learning to shift that emotion. So if I notice that I'm there, let me get it shifted to a state of compassion or a state of gratitude or a state of appreciation or whatever it might be, such that I'm not in a destructive state anymore. But the key to being able to do those three things is truly start with the ownership of the emotion. I'm feeling this way, and it has nothing to do with what's going on in the relationship. Again, even if the circumstances are less than ideal. If we can learn ownership of the emotion, that'll give us the ability to stop directing it or focusing it or projecting it or taking action from it in a way that's hurtful to the other person in the relationship.
I love that. You know what's so funny is that having trained with you for 9 years, there's certain things I take for granted. This, even just this piece around negative versus positive emotions, I don't relate with them that way. I just like, oh, there's a tree, there's a cloud, there's an emotion, it's just an emotion and it's okay. So I love like hearing from somebody who doesn't have context and asking this question and now has something actionable to do. That's awesome. This one I think we had at the weekend, but I loved the answer to it, and I think it's a great one. This was from Sally. If Sally, if you're watching on Facebook, maybe. I frequently find myself acknowledging my feelings, and I may have an understanding of my friends' feelings. Most of the time, I'm able to understand and respect other people's points of view. I've got this one friend though, and what comes back at me is, you don't really understand. You need to do more research on this subject, and then you'll understand. And when she reacts that way to me, it puts me on the defensive. What's the best way to handle this? What can I do?
Mhm. So whenever people show up in our life, we want to inherently, there's an immediate impulse that shows up, right? There's an immediate reaction that we want to execute. And so what we want to do is we want to start taking a pause. And I know this sounds simple and obvious, but if you watch people interact with each other, there's almost never a pause in the interaction between human beings, right? And even if you watch your own mind, like we did this exercise at Relationship Alchemy this last weekend, where it's like a person, when we start to pay attention, a person can be talking to you. And then before the person even finishes their communication, we are in our own mind answering to their communication. We're responding to their communication, and they're only halfway through what they're saying. And we're basically there like a horse, the racehorse in a pen, like just waiting for our moment to just like talk at the other person. And so it's like we're just waiting for our chance to communicate. So the key is to stop that reaction, that immediate reaction to other people, because you're inherently out of control if we're behaving in that way. It's our unconscious pattern dynamics just driving us, if you will. And so it's like learn to take that pause and go, okay, here's the communication they said. Take a pause and ask one simple question: what's the impact in which I want to have? And when you ask the question, what's the impact that I want to have on this other person? Ask the question through the vision that you have for the relationship. And so if you think about your friend and you go, what do I want to create in my friendship? I want to create connection, and I want to create trust, and I want to create, a sense of rapport and joy and safety, and I don't know, whatever those things are that you want to be vibrant and flourish in the relationship with your friend. You want to connect to that vision first. You want to go, okay, let me connect to that vision, and then take that pause and go, all right, what's the impact I want to have here? And then if you take a pause and ask the question, what's the impact I want to have? You're probably going to show up better than you would have, or you're more likely to hit the mark. And so if the friend is saying you don't understand me, etc., you can just take a pause and just go, oh, okay, I hear you. And you got to remember that everybody's always listening through a certain lens. Like most likely your friend just isn't in a place to hear the communication that you're offering there. It doesn't mean that necessarily that they do that they don't understand, or that you don't understand, or any of those things in which your friend is communicating. That's just where they are based on their automatic reaction and where they are in the moment. You could say the exact same thing to your friend when they're not upset, or when they're feeling less resentful, or maybe not worked up, and they're a bit more calm, and they would go, "Oh, thanks for the insight." And you could say the exact same words. And so remember, it's about the space of listening. And so just because somebody feels that way and is projecting that at you doesn't necessarily mean anything about you. Don't take it personal. So as I was saying earlier, we got to understand these aspects of relationship. First aspect, yourself. Second, the relationship. Third, the other person. It's like, okay, I'm not responsible actually for what the other person feels. I'm responsible for where I am and my influence on them. And so go back to what you can control, which is, okay, I'm going to feel that sense of compassion for my friend and they're having a tough time. And from there, you can just go, oh, you don't need to be right, in that circumstance. You can just communicate, hey, I hear you. Thank you for the feedback, and understand they're not in a place of listening in that moment, and move on. It doesn't mean you said anything bad. Doesn't mean you don't understand. It just means they're not in a space where they're able to do anything different than what they're currently doing, and then maybe revisit in the future. Or maybe you just go, all right, we're gonna call that out of bounds. I'm just not bringing that up with that person anymore because they don't have the ability to sort of, execute with me in a healthy dynamic when it comes to politics, or, whatever it might be. And so just hang out and do the other things that are enjoyable.
Yeah. What I what I love here is that that there's a framework inside the book that makes all of this clear. You named vision as a framework and the three aspects of relationship as a framework. And when you put it through the frameworks that are available in the book, it just becomes really clear. So I love how each one of these answers, it's just, you really did an amazing job with this book, Joey Klein, I gotta say. Okay, I've got another one. This one's a business relationship. Kimberly writes in and asked or shared, I got a promotion in January, and ever since, my relationship with two of my colleagues seems to have soured. I'm not included in many lunches, and they're not sharing weekend recaps on Monday mornings. I can imagine that there's some jealousy or resentment happening, but I worked hard for the promotion and I want to be happy about it, but I feel more left out than happy. What can I do?
So when it comes to like work and work environments, it's so easy to focus on how we're feeling, such as like in this instance, like I feel like I'm being left out. I might feel resentful. I could feel unworthy,
Mm.
insecure, and like we can get caught in that. And this is where that 100% responsibility is so important. There's no way to know why the other two are potentially leaving you out. And it can also be just a story that we create in our mind. We're like, oh my gosh, we're being left out, but maybe they're just managing something that isn't within our skill set, or doesn't make sense for inclusion yet, or something like this. And they may be intentionally, leaving you out for some reason, right? That may be there too. But if we make the other people responsible for how we feel, what will inadvertently happen is you'll feel that insecurity, you'll feel that maybe unworthiness, maybe resentment starts to build, and then those emotions, which are inherently destructive to relationships, will start informing behaviors and actions. You'll start avoiding meetings. You'll start becoming judgmental and cynical. You'll start, creating ideas or criticisms about your job and the role in the company and how unfair it is. And then what we oftentimes don't realize is we engage a process of opting ourselves out of opportunity
Yeah.
by way of who we're being in the space. And so something I always say is, we put those four energies into relationship. Number one, we put the emotion that we're feeling into the space, into a relationship. And so if you think about it just for yourself and you're like, man, if I have a business partner and they're feeling resentful and unworthy over there, am I going to want to embrace them with open arms and invite them into business meetings and collaboration and engagement? Probably not. Number two is, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking? If I'm thinking thoughts that are like, oh, I'm not being included and I'm not being seen for my value and I'm not getting paid enough. And, we start going down that realm of thinking, the byproduct of that is we are going to then start saying things to other employees and people without realizing we're saying them, and then that starts a little gossip train, and then that gets around, and then we will often start taking actions that we don't even realize that we're taking, that start creating a separation that we just don't even catch. We don't even realize we're doing it. And so go into full ownership that got you the promotion most likely in the first place, and go to a place of seeing if you can't access a space of inspiration and a space of gratitude for the opportunity that you have within the company, and seeing, optimism and a sense of opportunity, and where are those openings at for me, and just look at providing contribution at the highest level, regardless of how anybody else shows up. Answer to yourself first, not how somebody else feels about you, what they think about you, the review you got recently, or any of that other stuff. Just go, man, how can I show up as the absolute best version of myself that I can within the role that I have and the opportunities in which I have, and just focus on providing extraordinary value as who you are day after day after day after day, even if you're not recognized for it, even if you're not appreciated for it, even if people around don't like you, because ultimately, if you're in the right company and you're in the right environment, your results and outcomes are going to speak for themselves and land you in those meetings, and present further opportunities on your behalf. And if you can take that on, just 100% ownership. Hey, I'm going to manage what I can, which is myself, and the action which I'm going to take. And man, how am I going to respond to the space in which is provided to me, the opportunities that I have? You will end up being, one of the top in the company. Every organization that I've decided to ever engage in, I started at the bottom because I don't have any school, I don't have any education. I actually dropped out of college. I made it through one semester, got a 4.0, dropped out my second semester, never went back. And there's not a company that I've worked for, even when I had my very first job as like running a car wash when I was like 16 years old. It was a year I was running the car wash. The owner like just started leaving and had me running this place. I was like 16, 17 years old. Before that, I had a job 14. I was running the dojang. I ended up running the small martial arts, dojang. Every organization since then in my career that I've ever affiliated with or partnered with, I've been the number two to the number one. And I started every company as like, in the baseline, like just anybody in the space, right? At the very bottom. And it was this mentality that I constantly reinforced that truly brought me there. And so full ownership is how I would encourage you to interact there. And at the end of the day, if you do that, and this isn't where you're going to be, the company's going to eject you, and it just means you're on to something better.
I love that. And it's back to that 100% ownership. Just own it and own your vision of where you how you want to show up, who you want to be, and let everything else take care of itself. I love that. Okay, I would love to hear from some of you guys. Who has a relationship question for Joey? Who's got a relationship question or something to share from the weekend that we just spent together? Let's see. Oh, very good. We've got Laurel. Let's hear from Laurel.
Hi there. Well, as I commented, many people know I'm in the middle of a legal issue now with my sister, and I went specifically, told the attorneys, if you can make this happen, this is on Tuesday, if you can get us to an agreement on Friday, I can go. And that came together. And I was still on the edge of, I tend to not want to obliterate people, but if you keep pushing me and making allegations, I'm not the person to fool with. And so by Saturday, I was already at, big breath. I don't need to obliterate her to survive or to feel fulfilled or to feel that I have to do that. And by the time I left, I'm now noticing the attorneys are involved. That's the bottom line. But I'm now noticing as I'm preparing things for them and everything, that my way that I'm managing or hosting it in my body is completely different. Like, it's not from a kid. You're not gonna do this to me. It's more from, okay, it's very objective. I need to give this information to the attorneys. It's very factual. It's very distant. But I have one question that I have a number of people in my life that are like this. So it may sound generic, but I have a high sensory input overload. That's why in some ways I go off by myself at the weekends and things. And there's a couple people that it seems like such an onslaught. And if I can't get physical space. Any suggestions on how to manage that? I feel like it's, in some ways, I feel like it'd be rude to say, will you please stop fucking talking? I need a break. It's like, because it's about me, but I'm literally on sensory overload and I can barely manage myself.
Yeah. So two things. One is going to be a little bit direct, right? Which is, you said a statement, right? That's important to recognize, which is I have a lot of people like this in my life, right? We are the center of the people in our life. So if I have a lot of people in my life behaving in a particular way, it's so important to start paying attention to that full ownership piece and go, what am I doing such that I am propagating this in my life and in the relationships in which I have, right? Because there's a reason it's in your space. And if you can see that reason, then we can do something about it. We can start creating a different nature of relationship, different type of person in our life, right? So that's number one. Then number two is how do we manage when we are engaging with maybe a difficult person? Because difficult people aren't always avoidable. We're going to interact with them at times. And the key is you've got to develop the skills before the interaction. If I'm waiting for my time to engage with the person and they become difficult, whomever it may be, whatever the situation may be, a coworker, a business partner, a lawyer, right? Whatever, it's too late. And if I go, oh my God, what did Joey say I'm supposed to do in this moment? I think I'm supposed to breathe or something. We haven't trained the reflex. It's not there, right? And so it's like, okay, we've got to do our work prior to dealing with the difficult people. So in the morning, carving out that 20 minutes a day where you're breathing, developing those skills, being aware of your emotions, finding center, learning nervous system management, etc., so that when that time comes, you're able to go, oh, okay, that thing I've been doing in the morning, I can now use it in this situation. And so like the two things from this past weekend, Relationship Alchemy, it's in the Power Series training that you do inside your membership, is like get good at power of emotion. Train those skills where it's like, oh, I'm aware that I'm upset, or I'm aware I'm feeling angry. I'm aware I'm feeling resentful. Can I use that four-sided breath, nervous system management control, like we do at Reset, center the nervous system, and then execute from that place of compassion. And that might mean, communicating from that place, allowing the person to be where they are. It might be setting a boundary. It might be disengaging from the situation. But the key is I've got to hone and nurture those skills before I'm in the situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think what I heard you say, Joey, is even if I have a physical thing, like my health issue, I get on sensory overload. If I learn these skills and I can apply them, that can also be, I don't know, unwired.
Yeah, 100%. Like sensory overload is just the inability to manage my nervous system. And so,
Yeah.
if I learn to manage the nervous system and I recondition the nervous system, that is no longer a problem for me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Thanks, Laurel. Now, earlier, Britt, you raised your hand when Joey said, who left the weekend? And suddenly then you had a bunch of questions. Do you have a question or just your favorite takeaway from the weekend? I'd love to hear from you, Britt.
Yeah, definitely. Favorite takeaway was that 100% ownership, which was humbling and empowering at the same time. So really diving into those four contributions that we bring to the relationship, right? The emotions, the thoughts, the words, the actions, and looking at my own. What am I bringing? What have I been putting in? But then also that perception piece. How do I perceive my partner? And it's still my way of thinking, still what I am bringing, and I still can't blame. So back to the ownership piece for sure. The other piece that was very fascinating was those roles that Joey talked about on Sunday, right? Understanding how men and women do work emotionally different and the roles that we are taking on unconsciously and also through culture and gender, right? So that was an interesting piece. And I can't wait to dive into the course really deeply and go piece by piece, and was super grateful that my husband was there as well. So thank you.
Yeah, Britt, it was wonderful to have you both there. And I love what you brought up, that piece around not just what I contribute, but my perception. For me, I realized I'm in a relationship with myself. Just, I can't even get over myself. So that was just absolutely profound. Who else has a relationship question? Relationship question or a takeaway from the weekend? Oh, let's see here. I see a hand there. Is that Jane? I would love to hear from you, Jane. Boy, did you have an awesome weekend.
Yes, we had a very awesome weekend, and I gotta say, it made my husband extremely uncomfortable, but he was grateful for it. So, and Joey's his coach. So when I was talking this weekend, I said, this is really hard because Joey's your coach, and I just I was just blown away because I mean Tim was blown away the first time he went. I wasn't able to go because we had a sick dog. But so I knew how talented Joey was at I don't know, it's like magic. I mean, I can't even describe it. Like, you know nothing about my family, really, you know. And it was like this huge epiphany. Like when Tim would talk to me, I was like, why is this just rubbing me the wrong way? I could not, after 10 years of marriage counseling off and on with all these different people, could not put my finger on why it was. And it literally was how he was talking. But if I said that to him and said, hey, don't talk to me like that, it's the way you're talking to me, what would he do? He would get defensive and say, what are you talking about? It's not how I'm talking to you, and it would go back and forth and whatever. And just coming from that place of compassion and love was a whole different game change. Like he literally was like, I didn't know I was doing that, and then Joey, when you said, Jane, why does that bother you so much? Where did that come from in your life? Like I had a mind blank. I was like, I have no idea. And then all of a sudden I was like, my dad, because my dad really didn't raise us. My mom was a very strong single woman, and she was very strong and angry about being a single mom. And my dad would just pop in and just be like, elbows off the table. And I look at him and go, who are you to tell me that right now? You don't live here. You're not raising me, and don't talk to my mom like that, and things like that. So I think that also brings it up when I have interactions with my son sometimes too. So, it was a huge epiphany, and I'm gonna try to figure out what to do next with some stuff with my relationship with my oldest son. That's where I'm kind of lost. Like, when somebody talks to you disrespectfully, I know you're not supposed to react to it. Do you just pretend like they didn't say it? Or do you talk to them later and say, hey, I really wish that, our relationship could be better, and let's focus on this. But I don't know if he's even aware of it as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
So
what do you do?
So what we got to do is we work in three spaces, right? So when we say they're speaking disrespectfully to us, as we talked about at the weekend, we're in more of a land of being abstract, and so it's challenging to really hold a healthy boundary when we're speaking about our opinion about something. And so when we say that they're speaking to us in a disrespectful manner, like I'm not saying it's not true, but the thing is I haven't qualified what I want them to do or not do. Okay. And so the first place to tend is how we're feeling, because in our perception of somebody's disrespecting us, we feel some sort of hurt, right? We feel embarrassed, we feel angry, we feel resentful. Like, what would you say you feel when you perceive you're being spoken to this way? What would you call that emotion?
Kicked off, pissed
Yeah,
off.
angry. Yeah,
Yeah, don't
right.
talk
I'm
to me
mad.
like that.
I'm angry. So first step is I gotta step out of that anger, right? I'm responsible for the anger. Regardless of what somebody did, I'm responsible for the anger. So that's first step is let me find center so that I'm at least calm, right? I'm at least in a place of maybe centeredness with myself, peace with myself. Even better if I can get to a place of just feeling compassion for me, the situation, etc. Right? So that's first, because that'll give us access to a different perception of what's available and possible, a different intelligence, like quite literally, right? When we're angry, we see things one way. When we feel, compassion, we're gonna see a different opening. So that's number one. Then number two is isolate the behavior. So as opposed to saying they're disrespecting me, we've got to go, what is the specific thing that they're doing that I'd like to have stop? So if you think about like what your son does or how he behaves, as opposed to calling it disrespect. If you were to name the specific thing he's doing as an action, as a behavior, how would you qualify that?
Don't just talk to me nicely. Don't sneer. I guess it's what
Right?
it's just the way he says it,
Yeah, I
like I'm kind
understand.
of
But the
idiot.
key is
So,
that same idea, right? Sneer is same idea as disrespect, right? It's like you might kind of know it's happening. However, that's hard to qualify. It's hard to quantify. If I can't quantify it, I can't set a boundary around it, right? And so what I would look at, as opposed to the perception of what's happening, it's disrespectful, it's a sneer, is get more specific. What are the exact words that he's saying? Does that make sense? Like, does that occur to you? Like, what's the exact communication sounding like? What is he saying to you that he will say with repetition, as an example, that isn't conducive for the relationship you want to have or how you want to be treated? What occurs to you there?
well, one is like other people can order something like at the restaurant or whatever, but if I order something, then you'll be like, just don't be so difficult, mom, just order off the menu. It's just like it's a correcting,
Yeah.
like talking down to correcting your behavior. I'm like, I'm a grown ass woman. If I want a chicken sandwich, I'm gonna order a chicken sandwich, like I don't want a
I
chicken
got it.
salad. I don't want
So
salad,
there
and
you go.
yeah.
So
And
if
that's kind
you
of what
respond that way, you take the bait,
yeah.
right? Because that's what he's looking to do. He's looking to goad you, right? And then, oh, you took the bait. So instead of that, if you can stay out of the anger and get centered, like that specific behavior is, hey, I'd like to ask that you not manage me. I don't need you to manage me. I'm perfectly capable of managing myself. And then ignore him and then continue what you were doing, right? And then the next time he does it, hey, I'd like to make the request that you don't manage me. Please don't tell me what to do. I'm fully capable of managing myself. And then, ignore him, go back to what you're doing. That would be strategy number one. But you're not going to be able to execute that strategy of boundary setting with direct ask if I'm feeling angry. So that's why that first step is I got to get centered. I got to get out of the anger. And now I qualify exactly what he's doing. Because what he's doing based on what you just said there is he's telling me what to do. He's managing my behavior. So when he says that, just very calmly look at him and go, hey, I'd like to make the request that you not manage my behavior. I'm fully capable of managing myself. Thank you. And then go back to what you're doing. Like he doesn't even exist. Because if you do that, then he's not getting the payoff of your anger response. He's not activating you anymore. And if he's not activating you anymore, there's no payoff from his side. There's no reciprocation. Is that making sense from an emotional standpoint? The second option, depending on the situation, is, hey, I'd really like to ask you not to manage me. If you're not able to do that, I'm not going to interact with you. I'm gonna dismiss myself. And like if it's a family together and you go, hey, I'd really like to ask that you don't manage me. I'm fully capable of managing myself. Doesn't feel great. I'm gonna let you guys continue. And then you get up calmly and you leave. Now he's faced with like, oh, I'm a jerk. And now everybody sees that I was being a jerk. And so now he has to what? He has to sort of answer to and own his place, his responsibility. Depending on the situation, it might be, hey, I'd like to ask you not to manage me or treat me in that manner. If that's not something you can do, I'd invite you to leave. Like you don't have to be here. You could set the boundary that way. So the key though is name the specific dynamic that's going on and then set the boundary by way of either setting the boundary, moving on, setting the boundary, removing yourself, set the boundary, ask him to disengage. Do you see how that's different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so that goes back to you can't be responsible for him. You can't change his behavior, but you can show up in a way that's going to influence and make it highly likely that he will alter his way of being. Right. The final option that you have, and we want to have a little bit more training maybe for this one is, hey, I'd like to really make the request that you don't manage me. I don't need you to be managing me. It seems like you're upset about something. Would you like to talk about that? It seems like I've done something. What is it that you're really angry with me about? And just go straight to where the behavior is coming from for him. And so you're calling it out a little bit by way of just naming where he is.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get there, but we want some relationship skills to be able to interact with that space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because we had that discussion with a therapist when you talk about therapists that don't have the right skill set to help you. I mean, I think I mentioned this weekend. It was, well, Connor, are you doing this to piss off your mom? And he said yes. And then the therapist didn't follow it with anything. And I was just like, why didn't you
Yeah.
say, why are you doing this? What is, what's
Yeah.
propagating this? And then he went off to college and we never spoke about it again. And I was like,
Great.
that was a lot to hold on to. Like, what? You're doing this on purpose? Why? And they're like, well, he might have oppositional defiance where they crave negative attention. But we're not really
Yeah.
sure. And I was
Well,
like,
and that's the thing that a lot of people understand is that therapists have skills around naming what's happening,
right.
like being able to acknowledge maybe the pattern dynamic. If they're a
Yep.
decent therapist, a lot of therapists can't even do that, or psychologists, right? Naming pattern dynamics. And some of them are proficient at understanding how the pattern dynamic came to be, but they're not usually educated and trained on how to change the pattern dynamic or what new behavior needs to be in place that's going to produce a different outcome and result. So like the framework that could have happened there is acknowledging the anger, pointing out that it's destructive and impactful to him and to you and the relationship. He needs to own that a little bit better, and then giving him the tactics to do so. And then having him hear from you exactly how he's making you feel, how he's breaking you down, what that means in that space, and then having you not let that affect you anymore, give you the emotional capacity to access what we're talking about right now and what you're learning here, which is, hey, let's not be affected by son anymore, even though he's not treating you in an ideal way. Sometimes human beings are going to do that in intimate relationships. Like sometimes people are going to show up in a non-ideal way, and like, great, let's find a way to access compassion and joy and a sense of resiliency and confidence within yourself despite that behavior. And then, hey, here's what you should do when son shows up that way. And here's what, son, you should do when you're feeling this impulse. Because if you treat your mom that way, you're going to treat your girlfriend that way, you're going to treat your friends that way, and they are going to just disengage you. And if you want, it's like a whole thing could have happened there. But the key is you just didn't have somebody with high skill and competency. And so great, you found something else with high skill and competency. But the key to all this again is the anger piece. Like that's your piece. You got to go, okay, it's my responsibility not to be angry here, to get to a place of compassion or love or whatever that emotion is that you would be inside of if you had the relationship with your son you really want, and learn to anchor in that place as you set a boundary, as you respond, because that's the piece that's going to make the biggest difference. Does that all make sense?
Yep. Yep. Thank you.
You got it. Who knows? Maybe one day son will be at a program and I'll get in there.
That would be awesome.
Well, he is willing. He's willing, and he's coming in June. So
There you go.
that is my
Perfect.
prayer.
Power of emotion.
Oh.
Here we come. I'm gonna be on the lookout.
That is spectacular. So, I mean, I cannot believe that we've already been together for an hour and there's just so much more. I think just with our last few minutes, I would love to talk about next steps. Jane was with us at the weekend. And so Jane, you've got the book, you've got the course, you've got Joey, and we can't wait to see you next. And so why don't we pop up that slide, Wendy, would you mind the slide with the book in case you did not have an opportunity yet to grab it? You've got the book. There's a QR code also in the chat. I believe Caitlin put a link just in case you can't get this little QR code in time. Today's a great day to buy the book because it comes with a ton of bonuses. I mentioned the course when I mentioned just now that Jane has the course. If you weren't with us at the Relationship Alchemy Weekend, there is a companion course, as Joey mentioned, and it is 12 sessions. Each session has a training video from Joey, an action plan, some supporting materials, and you have lifetime access to the course, and it's 40% off today. That QR code that you can see on your screen has the QR code that goes directly to the course. Now, people have the book, people are going to get the book, people can have the course. If you were to give us a little bit of direction on how best to leverage the curriculum and to make a difference in our lives, what would that be?
Yeah. So I would engage in a couple ways, right? The course, again, like all of the information in the course, it's comprised of 12 separate sessions where we're covering a different relationship principle in each session. We're also going deep dive into every session on exactly how to develop the skill and the capacity and the competency that we are covering within that section of the course, that session of the course. And so it really is meant to be a training partner for you in the way in which it was designed. And every skill, every tool, every tactic, every framework that's in the course are the exact same frameworks that I've walked people through for the last 22 years. And basically, if they're in the course, it's because it's produced a result literally hundreds of times over, right? If a person took it on and actually executed the framework. And you'll hear is like, as I'm talking to people and answering these questions, I'm going back to a framework. I'm going back to a framework. There's a framework, right? It's like the course is comprised of frameworks that then teach you tools, techniques, and tactics that become skills that then translate to better relationships. Right. And so what I would encourage you to do is pick a relationship. You all picked a relationship who was at Relationship Alchemy. If you weren't at Relationship Alchemy, great. Pick the relationship that you want to see evolve and transform right now. And then when you get the course, go through each session. It's set up similar to the Power Series work for those of you who are members and who do that, where you do one session a week and you apply the tactics right away, whether it's in your culture company, in the culture of your company with your businesses, whether it's with a business partner, whether it's with your employees, your colleagues, your significant other, your children. The core relationship skills that ensure relationships thrive are consistent. The core things we do that break relationships down, those two are consistent. We cover them both in the course. Here's what not to do. Here's what we need to stop doing. Here's what we need to start doing to make sure relationships thrive. And then work that relationship over the course of the 12 sessions, which ends up being about 12 weeks. And it'll walk you through how to truly evolve and transform that relationship for the better. And then as soon as you're done, don't stop there. Go through the course again with the same person. And develop the skills, increase your competency and your capacity within the skill set, or pick a new person and start working with a new person right away and just start going through the course a second time and just make this what you kind of do as a staple. Like you go to the gym. I can't tell you how many times I've done squats. Like my trainer just told me again, Joey, we're squatting next Thursday, eat some extra calories. And I'm like, great. It's like you never outgrow squats is what I've learned. Like the squats are always waiting for you and they're always ready to basically show you can get better at them, right? This is the same thing. You want to develop the skills so they become reflexes so you just get better and better and better at them, which is then going to translate to more fulfilling relationships and better outcomes relative to what you're looking to produce. And then from there, the second thing is most of you guys already have a trainer that you work with. If you don't, hire a trainer and have the trainer support you as you go through the course so that they can help you see yourself, so they can help make sure you're applying the tool and the tactic correctly. And what would take you 5 years to do, you can do in 12 weeks if you have somebody who is accelerating that pathway. Like I know how to work out today. I was a world champion martial artist 3 years in a row. I fully understand, how to work myself out, but I still hire a trainer to work with me twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour and a half, because they will point things out that I don't see myself. And they will, hold the space they hold for me. I'll push myself harder than I would push myself. Like I'm ready to tap and take a little break. And they're right there like, no, don't you even think of stopping. You've got more in the tank. And so, it's like your trainer's going to serve the purpose to make sure you execute at a higher level. And so get the book, read that at night, get the concepts in your mind, use that, engage the course. Some of the things in the course are not in the book and vice versa. They're made to support each other. And then, hopefully you can jump into Relationship Alchemy if we do it next year or something. I'm not exactly sure when we'll hold another training, but if you're doing the work, you'll just get that much more out of the program when you do it. So do the course, pick the person, the relationship you're going to transform, make it experiential, apply it real time. That's how we learn, is through application, experiential, knowledge, if you will, and then get the book to reinforce those concepts.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you guys so much for being with us. I want to wrap up with a few key thank yous of people who really helped to make this book and this launch possible. First, Lydia Glass for this beautiful foreword and all of her encouragement and insistence on this book becoming a reality. Jillian Abbey, the writing partner that we loved working with. Ashley Bunting at Empire Thought Leadership. Amber Vilhauer and her great team over at NGNG, the amazing IMS team, including the spectacular Christina Brooks, my dear and wonderful Wendy Walcott, Caitlin Fagan, our fearless leader, Joey Klein, for making the world a better place for me and everybody else, one relationship at a time. And finally, to each and every one of you guys, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for reading, and for training with us. Thank you for your trust. Let's go out there and live a life we love, guys. Thank you.